Welcome to another top 5 with Kris 05, guys. Happy New Year and all the best to you. Today we're gonna be looking at the 5 best decks in Hearthstone right now, before the mini set comes, which we should be hearing about really soon, but until then, these will be the best decks you could be playing for Easy Legend in Hearthstone. I'm also gonna show you all of the other best working archetypes for each individual class, so stick around to the end if you want to see your favorite class and what you could be playing out of it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you do, a like and a subscribe would be awesome, and do me a favor and check if you're actually subscribed to the channel, because a lot of people think they are, but in reality they aren't. Anyway, now let's get into the decks.
You are not prepared!
The first deck on the list is again gonna be Midrange Shaman, and it's not even close. Shaman has been at the top of its game for quite a while now, and not much has changed if we gotta be completely honest. Some decks definitely do counter it well, like things like Ravenous Demon Hunter and so on and so forth, but even against those, it's kinda like a 50-50 more than anything else, so you should be climbing with ease with this deck, because it just usually curves out like a god, and there's not very many things your opponent could really do about it. There are so many iterations of Midrange Shaman right now, so you can't really go wrong. As long as you have 20 of the cards of Midrange Shaman, you should be good to go. But this right now is one of the lists that has above 500 games for the last 7 days with very big win rate, so you can definitely be hitting Easy Legend with this one. You can check out one of my many detailed guides about Midrange Shaman and my gameplays with the deck, my coaching session with it. Everything around it is already covered on the channel, so let's just check what the updated matchups are for this particular list. And like I said, you really don't have any real bad matchups. This one is a smaller sample size, but still gives you a pretty picture of what you could be expecting with it. But yeah, if we switch over to a similar variant, here's just a single card difference, 60% win rate, 13,000 games. And here's what the matchups look like here. Ravenous Cliff, like I said, on the negative. Aggro Pally might be a little bit too quick. And other mid-range shamans, I guess, somewhat, but not really. For the mulligans going first, you are gonna want to get yourself Living Flame so you can actually fish out your Flight of the Firehawk, but Living Flame is actually not one of the core cards for this deck, so if you decide to run it without it, the situation might be a little bit different. Turbulus could be great, Birdwatching N2 also ain't bad, Parrot Sanctuary can be awesome, Hagata, Murloc for turn 1 is awesome, Flight of the Firehawk for turn 3 so you can have a powerful turn 4, Elise the Navigator also makes a lot of sense, and against some matchups Pop-Up Book might be okay, even though it's not something you really should be holding on to. Going second, again, try to get Turbulus, try to get the good card draw for the big minions, and you should be good. For other good Shaman decks, what other good Shaman decks? Like, you literally need to scroll tons and tons of times to actually see anything different than Midrange Shaman, and once you're done scrolling, you're gonna find yourself the other iterations of Shaman decks right now, and they're all close to 50% or less win rate. We have things like Asteroid Shamans, Nature Shamans, and other nonsense like that. The only thing worth mentioning here would be Elemental Shaman with somewhat okay-ish win rate sitting at 53, but things like Asteroid Shaman are really nothing to write home about. Nature Shaman, same deal, and whatever the hell other is, definitely ain't it. On the number 2 spot, we have Death Knight with BBU Control Death Knight, which has been, again, quite the powerful deck for a while now. Even though Death Knight did receive some nerfs here and there in the past few months, it is still standing strong at the top of its game, and you could be winning a lot of games with this one if you know how to play it well. People call this deck Control Death Knight, but honestly, it is more of a mid-range deck than anything else that has a good amount of control tools as well. And the way you actually win with this usually would be with a very big turn 6, turn 7 board with things like Stitch Giants, with Hideous Husks, Elise locations, and so on and so forth. The deck doesn't really play out exactly like Control deck, but it definitely does have plenty of late game as well. You have a good amount of protection with things like Blob of Thor, single copy of Corpse Explosions, so if you see this getting played against you, you could have a safe bet knowing that he probably doesn't have a second copy of it. They obviously have Zilliax, Ceaseless Expanse, a lot of Leech package, and they also have the reanimated Pterodaxes, which are like mini Zilliaxes for free. So yeah, all around the deck is very, very hard to beat, and very good for climbing, even though it is a little bit on the slower side. Like I said, you could be winning around turn 7 most of the time. Again, check out my detailed guides about this deck. I have plenty of iterations on the channel with deck guides, coachings, and all of that, so you should be good to go with it. For the matchups, this one doesn't have too much stats, but again, the most important stat is you're gonna be good against mid-range shamans, so you got that going for you. Let's see a similar variant. Here's one with a single card difference. The win rate is definitely a lot lower than the one I'm showing you, but still, let's just show this for the sake of matchups, because a single card difference is not going to change all that much. Apparently druids are not going to be your best friend. Protoss priest, if you manage to find one. Quest warrior also would be a problem, especially if you're not running the demolition location destroyer card, which you definitely could tech in, but everything else hella green. Going first and second, Creature of Madness is always going to be absolutely MVP. Morbid Swarm is pretty nice. Elise obviously a keep. Dreadhound Handler. Basically anything under 4 mana would be very premium for you, because you really don't have that many cards under 4 mana. Like, these are literally all the 5 cards you have under 4 mana, which would be a grand total of 10 cards, guys. Everything else is costing you a lot more than that. So yeah, basically try to find the cheap stuff and you should be good. On the coin, again, plenty of the same stuff. In some cases, you could also hold on to Exarch Maladar, with which you could be doing some crazy things. For other good decks for the class, I think this is the one I'm showing you. Very good sample size with almost 63% win rate. Definitely pretty good. But there's also a Corpse Death Knight, which is apparently doing kind of good. I did actually see somebody propose for me to play this Triple U Death Knight last stream, and I was like, this looks weird, but apparently it's actually looking pretty promising, so I might give this a try next time. Be on the lookout for a deck guide for this one. You can also scroll down, see some other decks, but it's gonna be plenty of Control Leech Death Knights before we see something else. Death Rattle Death Knight is still looking pretty promising. This is the Stegadon variant, however, not any Adab Bwonsamdi BS, which honestly has fallen off a bit. Haven't seen Bwonsamdi in so long, it's not even funny. Scrolling down further, here's something of a Frost Death Knight kind of deal with double Frost, I guess. Some Marrow Manipulator action. Double Frost and Holy kind of deck recipe. Corpse Death Knight is kind of the same thing I just showed you at the top, but with a lot more modest win rate. So all in all, there's several different iterations of Death Knight you could be playing it right now. Here's a Chronal or Deos variation with Moargs and High Cultist Herons, and I don't even know what the hell this is, but kind of greedy. Here's Bwonsamdi sitting at 56, so definitely still pretty playable. I guess it would be easier if we isolate the decks like this. Here's Bwonsamdi's, here's the Death Rattles, plenty of different iterations of Death Rattles, by the way. Frost Death Knight, not that hot, but honestly, yeah, it's a triple Frost, so we can call it that. Hand Buff Death Knight has seen better days. You guys know it's one of my go-to decks when it actually works. Right now, it doesn't work much. Corpse Death Knight, not that much sample size, but definitely worth checking out. And Control Death Knight, whatever the hell that's supposed to be. Still kind of looks like Leech Death Knight, but a lot worse. Like, some pretty questionable cards in here, not gonna lie. As for other Death Knights, why are these others? This still looks like Control Leech, but no, it's actually single blood, double unholy, so that's kind of interesting, and so on and so forth. Definitely plenty of options for Death Knight, that's for sure. Spot number 3 actually goes for Aggro Demon Hunter. I'm actually kind of surprised this deck has a bit better win rate than Ravenous Demon Hunter right now. But to be fair, both archetypes are real strong right now. And yeah, Aggro Demon Hunter could be a nice quick deck for you to be climbing easy ranks with. Haven't done a guide about it in a while, but I do have a guide about it from maybe a month ago, so you could still give it a check. It's nice and quick. It does run the new Time Lost Glaive for a little bit of extra damage from hand. You have yourself Zephyrus, with which you could be getting extra reach damage. You do control the board nice and good with things like Hot Coals, which you do fish out with Living Flames, so if you're facing other aggro decks, this would be very nice. Single copy of Insect Claw in here, so you don't have too many weapons. You do have Kane to go through some big taunts. Ziliax would be the Haywire plus Pyro module, so if you tempo this out early, you could be taking a lot of opponents by surprise, and this deck actually does run Mukla, which I kind of grown to like a lot in decks like these, but this one doesn't have it. Instead, it has a couple of Perennial Serpents, and as long as you manage to actually hold on to a dormant minion for turn 3, you could be playing this on turn 4, or heck, even on turn 3 if you have the coin. You have a Slumbering Sprite with which you can guarantee a dormant minion remains if you're not going to be hero powering, but you could also try your luck at a Grim Harvest, and 66% of the time playing this the turn before the Serpent should be giving you a minion that's going to allow you to play this for 4 mana only. For the matchups, Midrange Shaman is not going to be your friend, and neither would Quest Warrior. Protoss Mage would be fine, but the sample size is a bit on the low side here, so let's check out similar decks. Here's one with 11,000 games. Instead, it has Mukla and a couple of Battle Fiends instead of your Living Flames and Talnos, and this should give us a much bigger picture at what we could be expecting with it. Face Hunter is going to be a little bit too quick for you, apparently. Control Mage, whatever the hell that is. Toki Mage, basically. Midrange Shaman still questionable. Quest Warrior still kind of bad. And also same can be said for Control Death Knight, but all around plenty of green, and you're going to be having some very quick games with this one. When it comes down to the mulligan, try to curve off with your good early game minions, with your Sock Puppet, the Slumbering Sprite, the Weapon ain't bad, Spirited Team also pretty good. Grim Harvest can be nice, especially if you have the Serpent already, you could definitely consider holding on both of those. The Living Flame straight out, the Ziliax could be great on tempo, Insect Claw if you're curving into it, Infestation as well if you feel like it's gonna be important. The rest probably not so much though. On the coin, again, get that good old 1, 2, 3 and you should be right as rain. Here on the coin, I'd say the Serpent or Ziliax would be even better. For other good Demon Hunter decks, this is the one I'm showing you, almost 62% win rate with 600 games, but we also have plenty of Ravenous Cliff Demon Hunters out there, including a almost 61% win rate with 17,000 games, guys. But I have been showing you this deck in top 5s plenty of times, and let's be real, 600 games on aggro definitely ain't small. So if you wanna try the tried and tested variant, Ravenous Cliff Demon Hunter would definitely be the way to go, and again, check out my guides about those. Big Demon Hunter is actually doing quite well even in top legends. We can scroll through a lot of other Ravenous Cliff Demon Hunters to see Spell Demon Hunter is actually also looking pretty saucy, like almost 60% win rate for this variation. That's kind of crazy. And I have tried this deck, definitely didn't feel like a 60% win rate deck to me, but who knows, maybe the meta is a little bit more favored for it right now. Definitely could give it a check. Another big Demon Hunter with a very big sample size and decent win rates. Another aggro Demon Hunter here with Mukla and whatnot. Peddler Demon Hunter definitely seems like it has fallen off a bit. Here's a variation of it, but it's not a very easy deck to get the most out of, and you could be seeing it in top legend, but from Diamond to Legend the stats are not that amazing. Spot number 4 actually goes to Quest Warrior, and even though Dragon Warrior is a lot more popular from Diamond 5 to Legend, Quest Warrior actually does have slightly better win rate even in this segment, but you could be hitting even top Legend with this if you know how to play it. This version is running Demolition Renovator because Elise is so pro-dominant right now, and it's even running Murazon in here, which honestly I feel is a questionable card. Yes, it is gonna help you instantly win as soon as you get your extra turn out of your quest reward for the mage reward, but honestly you should be winning that either way if you get to that point in the game, but it's just a single card inclusion, so I guess not the worst idea in the world. In top legend you're not gonna see any variations with Murazon, I can tell you that much, but from Diamond to Legend I guess people still think this is OP. And honestly sometimes it could be, like sometimes it's actually hard to get yourself an extra turn lethal out with this deck, but if you know how to set it up it shouldn't be that big a deal with things like Galvadons, with full boards of 5/5s, that kind of stuff. Usually you could be getting that lethal even without Murazon, but not the worst card I guess. You also have all you can eat in here, which is not something I've seen in most lists nowadays, but it's a good amount of card draw, that's for sure. But the rest looks like pretty standard stuff, so again, check out my detailed Quest Warrior guide. For the matchups, we don't have too much stats here, but mid-range Shaman is gonna be a good one for you, so you have that going for you. And if we go to similar decks, here's one without Murazon, but instead it has a couple of yours, and it has a lot more sample size, so it's gonna give us a bigger picture what you could be expecting. And Death Rattle Death Knight is indeed gonna be a problem for you because they keep on giving. Dawn Druid is also kind of in the same boat. Control Mage can be a problem. Egg Warlock apparently is also not great, and fellow Quest Warriors also might be a problem, I guess. For the mulligan, you're gonna be looking for your ramp, for your card draw. You obviously always are gonna hold on to the quest on ladder because you don't know exactly what kind of deck you're playing against. The shield block is nice. All you can eat is gonna give you a ton of card draw. Elise is MVP. Precursory Strike could be nice, depending on the matchup. Hostile Invader, and even Demolition Renovator if you're expecting an early Elise. On the coin, it's not much different. Get the card draw, get the ramp, get the important early game cards, and you should be good. For other good warrior decks, this is the one I'm showing you, 610 games with 59+% win rate. Right behind it is the Dragon Warrior, however, with the Blood Fighters variation seems like it is still kind of better from Diamond to Legend at least, even though with 16,000 games we can see the variations with Lord Apoc, with Ferak and Neralex, that kind of stuff, so definitely nothing to scoff at. And realistically speaking, with this much more sample size and this big a win rate, it probably is still the deck you should be going for, but for top legend, I'd say Quest Warrior is gonna take you even there, so might as well talk about that one. Other than that, there's really not much else going on for Warrior. We have several iterations of Quest Warrior, several iterations of Dragon Warrior with and without the Blood Fighters, and all of those are really doing pretty well right now, so you can't really go wrong with Warrior. There are some pretty bad variations of Quest Warriors at the bottom, however, same with Dragon Warrior if we gotta be honest, so keep away from those and stick around with the proven ones. And the last deck on the list honestly could have been a lot of things, but I think Aggro Rogue definitely deserves to be in this top 5 because right now this is one of the best decks in Top Legend, with which you could be hitting even Top 1 Legend if you know how to play it, and the deck definitely is very fun, very fresh, very different, and each game could be feeling very different from the other because you have so much extra burgle mechanics and there's a very high skill cap to it. With things like Deja Vu and Nightmare Fuel, you could be grabbing yourself all sorts of different cool things out of the opponent's deck, and the better you are at playing every deck in the game, the better you will be at playing this one, because you are gonna have to combo a lot of things from other classes. Same can be said for Ashamain, which is gonna give you a ton of extra cards from the opponent from his deck, so it's also gonna give you a good read of what has already been drawn and whatnot. And this deck is called Aggro Rogue, but if we gotta be completely honest, it's more of a mid-range rogue, because you don't really have that much aggro aside from, let's say, a couple of flashbacks you could be tempoing out super quick, and in some cases you definitely could feel like aggro, but this is far from the name this deck should be having. Again, I do have a recent detailed guide about this deck with a bunch of gameplay and detailed guide in it, so give that one a check if you want to know what to do with this one. But now let's see what the matchups are looking like. Not much. This is in Legend, so sample size is small, same with Diamond to Legend, but from Diamond to Legend this deck definitely doesn't have the most OP stats, I can tell it that much. This one does look kind of similar to a deck I showed you not too long ago, but again, the matchups are not going to be looking too pretty. Yeah, there's literally no matchups right now, so I guess we're going to have to go with our guts here. For the Mulligan, Creature of Madness is always going to be great. Deja Vu for 1 is also nice. Space Rock Collector, Elise straight out, Flashback, Foxy Fraud, Prep, Nightmare Fuel is also pretty awesome, and if you're expecting an early game Elise out of the opponent, Mirex also could be great, especially if you're curving into it. On the coin, again, Elise is top tier. Flashback is amazing for turn 1 on the coin. Creature of Madness, so you can actually have a pretty good turn 3. Deja Vu still OP. Space Rock Collector, Foxy, basically kind of the same deal, but here you could be also considering things like Telegraph, O-Manager, if you're expecting some early game aggression. This is the deck I'm showing you right now, and it's actually the best rogue deck in Top Legend. Indeed, we do have several iterations of it at the top, but all around you could be doing some pretty crazy things with this one. From Diamond to Legend, the stats for it are not looking that impressive. I think this is it. No, this is the close variations with Garona instead, which personally I feel is actually kind of worse. But yeah, you could also be going for things like Templar Rogue, Garona Rogue, Firak Rogue, which is kind of the same deal, but with a different end game instead of Ashamain. Psycho Rogue is also something people do manage to do well in Top Legend, but I could not get that deck to work for the life of me. Space Rogue is also doing quite alright. So yeah, all around Rogue does have plenty of different options, but none of the decks are actually very easy to play well, so keep that in mind. For the classes we haven't mentioned, starting off with Druid, and honestly, Ashara Copy Druid could have been into this top 5 instead of the Rogue list, but the win rate is not that top tier. The sample size, however, is pretty good, so there's that. This is not the deck I showed you actually yesterday, I feel. This one is abusing Aulonius and whatnot, which could be an interesting variation of the deck to play, but personally I feel like the straight out Copy Druid was better. Tom Druid is something you could still be playing. Here's the other deck I showed you, Ashara Druid, which feels really strong right now, especially in higher legend. Krona Druid is playable, Aviana Druid is also still memey, and the rest are kind of iterations of these. Imbue Druid is playable, but definitely not that amazing right now. For Hunter, Discover Hunter also could have made it into this top 5 list, but it's a very, very hard deck to make work. This version of it with Devil's Door Mask doesn't feel like it's the most OP right now, but the stats are as is. There's also Face Hunter that's actually kind of playable. Here's a much more sample-sized Discover Hunter that does not run Elise, so it can actually curve out faster. Quest Hunter is definitely pretty fun and actually a lot better than it used to be, and the rest is just iterations of these. Beast Hunter, not that hot right now, sitting at 53 with a mediocre sample size, so definitely not the best. With Mage, Elemental Mage still seems to be the best version of a free-to-play deck right now. You can definitely clap Easy Legend with Elemental Mage if you put enough games in. Protoss Mage is also pretty strong, and you could be seeing it even in Top Legend. There's several different iterations of Protoss Mage. You could see different videos of it on my channel as well. We can also see Arcane Mage is actually playable. Toki Mage is something people have started playing a little bit more. It's called Control Mage on the stats, and so on and so forth. With Paladin, Aggro Paladin also could have kind of made it into this top 5. Here's a 57.6% win rate variations of it with a good sample size, but it's kind of a pretty straightforward deck. Again, I do have a guide about it. Then again, what don't I have a guide about at this point? So you could see the deck in action there with a detailed guide. Bubble Pally is also looking pretty decent. Even though it's not gonna bring you to top legend, it can definitely hit legend for you. Here's a pretty proven version of the deck with Toraf and whatnot. You could be doing some pretty broken broken things with Carnivorous Cubicle, and with Divine Brew with Toref like that. Imbue Pally apparently is back on the menu, not a big sample size, but definitely pretty good win rate. Quest Paladin also usable, but not the menace it used to be. For Priest, Protoss Priest is looking okay. It's actually looking more than okay, but with a very small sample size. Imbue Priest apparently is also kind of playable. The Zarimi Priest is also up there. I think there was a bigger sample size Zarimi somewhere here. I'm not seeing it right now. But yeah, it would be Protoss, Zarimi, Imbue, and a Bandage Priest I think is also somewhere in here. Yeah, here it is. 56-ish% win rate, small sample size. Quest Priest apparently is also up there. So we actually do have plenty of different interesting Priest variations right now, but none of them are too popular so far. And with Warlock, Egg Warlock seems to be the best bet for you could be going for if you're really determined to hit Legend with Warlock, but the deck is pretty hard to get it to work. It does have plenty of card draw, but if the Egg and the 2 Egg Bearers are at the bottom 10, it's gonna be a very miserable experience for you. Trust me, I know I tried it yesterday and I couldn't get a single win with it for the life of me. Shred Warlock is definitely usable and kinda quick. Rafam Warlock's still pretty dog water, however. It did have a little bit of positive win rate not too long ago, but right now it's again under the water. So that's gonna be it for this top 5, guys. Hope this helps you hit easy Legend in the new year. If you enjoyed the video, a like and subscribe would be appreciated, and don't forget you can check me out live on stream each Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, where I do my best to show you the best decks in action. Thanks for watching. I'm Kris05, and I'll see you in my next video or stream.